Welcome to this week's Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blind Intelligence. I'm your host, Miss Ronnie, where I always seek to give you exquisite cranial repertoire. This week, I had a client to call me, and he decided that he no longer wanted to be an artist, that he decided that he wanted to be a songwriter and to write for other people. And he asked me what I thought about that, and I'm all for it. But it led me back to an interview that I did with a major songwriter. He has written for Ariana Grande. He has written for Selena Gomez. He has written for Justin Bieber. And he's even worked with Olivia Newton-John and Cyndi Lauper, and those are like two that I like really, really love. But what I'm gonna do is show some snippets of the interview that we did, because he gave some pointers on songwriting that I think may be very beneficial to independent artists who are writers. And I said that when I first did the interview, but because my own client came to me wanting to take this route, I wanted to share this information with everyone again. So take a look. This week we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Rob Wells. Say hello to everyone.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. Happy to be here. Happy to be doing this.
I'm glad that you came. I'm happy, really happy that you came. I would like to start out with letting you tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. I'm a songwriter and producer. I live in Canada, just outside of Toronto, and I've worked with a lot of major label artists, a lot of independent artists. I've worked on TV shows, music for TV, for film, for video games, and a whole bunch of different things like that. Just if you need music, just come to me and let's make some music. That's my life.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off with asking you a question. I want to know, why is your advice to start with the chorus?
Wow, that's a great question. I always say start with the chorus, just because can you imagine getting into a car with somebody else and just looking at them and saying, where do you want to go? And they're like, I don't know, where do you want to go? And then you just start driving without even discussing it any further. You're going to go like over here, you're going to go over there, you're not going to know where you want to go, right? I always think that if you have a limited time in which to work with someone and to develop something, it's the exact same thing as a truck driver carrying goods, and they know that they're starting from this point A and they know they have to get to point B by a certain amount of time, or else they're going to get fired. So for me, it's the same thing, where it's just like, I know I have a few hours to work with someone. I have to get from point A to point B. I have to know what my destination is in order to make that happen in as short of a time as possible. So we start by talking, we start by discussing what it is that we want to write about, what the emotion is, what the communication is, and within that discussion we usually find the title. And then from the title we then develop the chorus. And then voila, there we go, we got our destination, and we know everything about this emotion and communication that we want to give. Then once we have the chorus and we have something that we really, really love, that we can sing 1,000 times and nobody's getting sick of it, we then work backwards and we tell the backstory of what led us to the chorus, and making sure that each line that we write points towards that chorus. Rather than getting in at the beginning of the song and turning to each other and saying, where do you want to go? I don't know, where do you want to go? And that we would just be like going like this all over the place, and then maybe even never ending upon our chorus. We just want to know that great destination. It just makes for a really, really quick session. You can write a song within 2 hours using that formula. And the exact same thing, not just with writing, but because I'm a music producer as well, I start by producing the chorus first. So I produce the chorus as big and as beautiful as possible, using as little instrumentation as possible, and then working backwards from that. You heard that.
I heard you say that on one of, I think it was one of your reels. No, it wasn't the reels. It was one of the I guess informational things that you was given on YouTube, and that's what you were saying, that you take away from the chorus, and every other part of the song leads back to the chorus.
Yep, totally. The chorus is king, or queen. Chorus is everything. Chorus is really what everybody takes home, and they remember that. They don't necessarily remember all the verse material, but they will remember the chorus. So just make that your most important thing. And don't overproduce, don't overwrite for it. Just make it exactly what it needs to be.
Okay. I have heard many producers give pros and cons of technology in the music industry. How has technology made your job harder?
Wow. I love all these questions. These are great. Like most of the questions that I get are like, tell me about Justin Bieber. It's like, so this is great, man. We're like really getting into it.
I'm interviewing you.
I love it. No, this is great. Okay, so how has technology made my life harder? In many ways, it's made it easier. However, I will always tell people to not focus on the technology when you're writing a song. Don't go to the technology at all until the song is written. And sometimes the technology can stand in the way of writing a great song if you're spending all your time trying to find like the best kick drum sample or the best snare sample or the right tone for your guitar. Because honestly, none of that stuff matters. All that matters is writing the song, and you almost need to push the technology way out of the way. Once you have the song, once you're reduced to tears and you're listening to it in what we call the campfire test, where it's just like piano and vocal or guitar and vocal or drum and spoken word or whatever it is, if you're reduced to tears listening to it that way, then you can throw any production that you want over top of that and it's still going to work. And that's the moment that you bring in the technology.
Okay. So this is a question that I asked Roth when I interviewed him. So I'm going to ask you, how many instruments do you think that a composition is supposed to have?
Well, it really depends on the song. It really
Mhm.
depends on the way that it's supposed to feel.
Okay.
I've heard some beautiful songs where it is just guitar and vocal, and it really, really works. And maybe there's a cello that comes in at some point. I've heard some other songs where it's just drum and rap, and that's it. And it really works. And then I've heard some songs where it's like, it's crazy produced, where there's so many things that are on there. I really try to not overproduce stuff. As I say, like I really try to do the biggest bang for the buck using as little instrumentation and production as possible, if you can. Just really try to declutter, as much as you can. But then I've heard other things that sound incredible when it's just like it's so many things that are going on. So it really is just on a song by song basis for me. I will say this though, if you're handing in songs to record labels, that if you have the intention of having a song fully produced, but you hand in them something that's just a guitar and vocal demo, they will not have the time to imagine it being in its fully produced state. They'll just hear it and they'll think, well, that's a nice guitar vocal song, even though you planned on it having full drums, full synth, full orchestration, whatever. You really have to sort of spell it out for them and produce it just the way you imagine hearing it on the radio before you hand it into a record label. And just say, I'm just going to keep doing the way that I was doing things before. That's death, right? You got to keep evolving. You got to keep.
Can you say that again?
Well, I was just saying that if you dig in your heels.
It was important. Please say it again.
Yeah, if you dig in your heels, that's death. If you just say, I'm good with just the way that it is, you can't. You have to keep adapting. You have to keep adjusting with the times. I remember my grandparents. I loved my grandparents like crazy, but they definitely dug in their heels at a certain point in their life, and they were like, that's enough. I've known enough now about the world, and I don't want to know anymore, and I don't want to take in the new technologies that are coming down the road, And then I look at my mother, who's like totally adjusted and has embraced technology and is now the queen of the iPad, and she's able to do so much at the age of 77 on her iPad, and she's rocking it. My father-in-law is 91 and he rocks the iPad. It's just like, but if you like, thank God for that, because during COVID, he's been able to connect with all of his kids, all of his grandkids, great grandkids, everything. And if he had dug his heels in and said, no, I'm not, I've learned enough, then he wouldn't have been able to roll with the times, And I think it's really important to do that, to always be listening to new music, to listening to what's around the corner, to be listening to music from around the world, not just now, but what came before, all that stuff, and embracing new technologies that are coming down as well. And just, if social media is part of it, then jump on board, some social media I get, some social media I don't get. I still don't understand Snapchat to save my life. I don't know what the purpose of that thing is, but man, I love me some Instagram and some Clubhouse.
I thank you for coming.
So that's it. We're done.
Yeah, our time is almost up. We scheduled this time. Don't stay in there now.
Yeah.
I'm
one more. You got to have one more question in there. Come on. No?
Well, I'll let you have the last word. So I want you to tell everybody about any of your latest projects that you're working on, your social media handles, how they can find you, any last words, any advice that you want to give.
I can be found at Rob W Music everywhere on Twitter, Instagram. That's my email as well on Gmail, Rob W Music. I never really brag about things that I'm working on. I just, I'm always just, I want to find stuff that I'm really excited about. Always, the artists that I work with, I want to be in awe about them. I want to think like I have no reason to be here. They're already amazing. Why would I ever be in a room with this person? And it's that level that I want to work at. Then I get in there and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take their 100% and I'm going to add another 100% on top of that. And that's where the real magic happens. That's where we can create some great music, So that's it. I just think, everybody should follow their dreams, do what you love. You're here for 100 years if you're lucky, and just do what you love as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
I hope you learned some great pointers from that. As always, you can find us live streaming on social media. You can find us on all podcasting platforms. And I think now YouTube have it where when you set like a playlist or whatever, you can set it for podcast. I am registered for the podcast charts. I have been charting in several countries, but come on, United States, and help a sister out. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Hey girl, let me tell you about this podcast.
Girl, everybody has a podcast these days.
But this one interviews new and interesting indie artists. It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Really? Where can I find it?
It's on all podcasting platforms, streams live on social media, and on rpentradio.com.
What'd you say it was called again?
It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Girl, I'm gonna have to check her out.